Takerufuji keeps counting the cost of his chaotic end to March. The history-making defending champion missed the entire April tour. He will now miss the whole of May as well, his master has said today. He can't footstamp properly yet. It's hopeless competing like this, were Coach Isegahama's exact words. Takeru's looking to come back in July, which means he could drop to Division 2 just weeks after taking the Emperor's Cup. And Sumo's attempts to modernize have been thrown back some 50 years. Sumo needs to devise a system for sharing tournament titles and prize money should the frontrunner be stopped by injury from fighting his final bout. Furthermore, it must scrap the rule that all special prize winners must have fought the full 15 days. Takerufuji clearly earned his gongs on the first 14 days alone last time. The cash prizes should have been his, regardless of whether he fought match 15. At the very least, and I know it won't happen, Sumo's nebulous compliance committee should examine all the chances missed to safeguard Takerufuji that day, warn the people who forced him to stand on that injured foot, and come up with plenty of guidelines to ensure this never happens again. Terunofuji is yet to decide on whether he's entering May, but it seems as though he still will. After he lent his chest to Haku Oho this morning, his master Isegahama said, "He's not in bad condition, you know. He just hasn't trained as he'd have liked, and still has slight pain in those left ribs. But I think all he can do is try those actual tournament bouts and see how he gets on. The opening days will be key, right? If he picks up early wins in decent fashion, gets used to the pace and builds up a flow, he can only improve from there." And that has been the pattern for each of his past 3 tournament wins. But I'm not sure Terunofuji believes he can really win this one. Asanoyama, as strongly hinted this week, officially withdrew today. "Obviously I'm gutted not to fight on Seiyaku return," he said, "but I'll focus on healing properly now and get back in shape for July." Fans will be pleased to know, however, that plenty of big names are fighting fit. Daieisho journeyed to Tokitsukaze yesterday morning for a whopping 29 bouts. 16 of them came against these 4 men, 3 of whom were also guests. The last 13 were against Kirishima, in separate spurts of 7 and 6. "I've made the effort to come out here, so I'll get my money's worth," Daieisho said afterwards. "That was my highest bout count so far, so I felt fatigued at the end, but a tremendous workout overall." These intense sessions are steeling him for a merciless opening week in May, which should see him face all the biggest names. The same session saw fellow guest Hokutofuji test himself in 11 bouts, mixing throat holds with forceful dives for the belt. "I can move around even better than hoped," he told reporters post-bouts. "As there are several higher rankers here, I feel no great pressure to win, so it's good just to work on my signature style. And my body really gets to feel the sheer power and speed of the top guys." Despite being saddled with knee and neck trouble and unable to train as before, Hokuto insists he's shaping up better than he was in the run-up to March. And Kirishima iced off that session with 23 bouts overall, adding 8 with Nishikigi and 2 with Toki Hayate to his 13 with Daieisho. I don't have specific scores for these, but I presume he won most of them. His charging is certainly back to normal. "It's a world apart from the 3 days pre-March when I could hardly train at all," Shima said. "It feels like the real Kirishima is back." And it seems these sessions at Tokitsukaze move along just fine without Hokuseiho's presence. He used to attend them as well, you may recall. Hoshoryu, meanwhile, wrapped himself in his matchday sash today, but did not do any bouts at Tatsunami Stable. Instead, he lent his chest to a posse of lower rankers and advised them on how to improve. "That wraps up pre-meet training for me," the fiery Ozeki said. "Since returning from the tour, I've been able to get several good sessions under my belt. Nothing hurts, and nothing phases me." He has welcomed Hiradoumi for practice bouts this week, we understand, and he feels he's performing well enough to push for a second title. "It was hell losing out to Takerufuji 2 months ago," he recalls. "As an Ozeki, it was so painful to see a lower ranker walk off with the cup." Next, 2 aging warriors dropping to Division 2 insist they can still do the business. 37-year-old Myogiryu says, despite having called in his elder stock loan, "My fighting spirit is still intact. If I'm going to fall, I will do it gracefully." And 33-year-old Endo, who has held elder stock for several years, adds, "I feel I've got more than enough to get me through these 15 days. Both these men, say Sake Sports, rank in Sumo's top 10 for tournament incentive pay. They would love to receive a little more of that before hanging up their belts for good.